guys, we are here. This is, welcome, everybody. This is the Powder Group Conversations. Today we are with Marietta, Carter-Narcisse. We will be speaking about the amazing topic of the business of makeup. So before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we are not able to be here and provide this as a complimentary program for our TPG Pro members during live broadcasts, as well as on our podcast and our YouTube channel at the Powder Group on both of those. So thank you to Omnia, thank you to Beekman 1802, Muse Beauty Pro, Senate Cosmetics, Skindinavia, and Cinema Secrets. Those are our sponsors for our full year of programming for the Powder Group Conversation. So thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to everybody for being here live. And thank you to you guys who are checking us out on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, or as I said, in podcast. Marietta, Carter-Narcisse, good morning. Good afternoon, I should say.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon.
How are
you
you
guys
doing today?
you must be frozen in.
I've been frozen in since December. It doesn't even affect me anymore. It's all good. Upstate, we're just good. I just feel for everybody down south who's dealing with all this crazy weather. It's kind of nuts.
I know, absolutely insanity, really. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hope everybody's doing well.
So Marietta, Carter-Narcisse, you have, I'm not going to say a number of years, but you've been around a few years in this industry. And we met over 20 years ago when I was still an executive with MAC, and you were doing some stuff with us then. You worked with me in the Makeup Forever Academy when we were launching the TV and Cinema Academy in Paris. You and I have a long history, and you've been a part of so many things at the Powder Group. So right off the top, I want to say thank you for continuing to give to our entire industry and our entire community. Your words of wisdom are amazing, and you have contributed so much to everything that we have gained as an industry through you. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure. And I was thinking this morning, I said, okay, so why do Michael and I keep chatting about, the industry? And I thought, and that was a question that I had for you. Why do you keep bringing me back?
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll say to you what I've said to some of my clients who I speak with their students or I speak at their shows. If I ever have nothing of value to add, stop asking me. So if you somehow end up with nothing of value to add, I don't see that happening. I'll stop asking you. But until then, you bring something new to the table every single time. And I'll say this. One of the things I love talking to you is the sheer level of transparency and honesty and integrity that you operate your personal business and your businesses and your sets when you're a department head with. And that is, I don't want to say it's rare in the industry, but we all know that it's something that, we should work on as an industry to get stronger and better at being filled with that generosity, that humility, and all of those things. But what's also interesting is you are a natural educator. You've been educating for many years. You've got your books, which we'll talk about. But I think that because of the length of time you've been in this industry, and because of the fact that you've shifted, and you pivoted before pivoting was a thing, right?
Yeah.
You moved from LA to Florida, you started doing some retail, you started doing some education, then you got back into film and movies again. I want to ask you one question, because this program is about the business of makeup artistry. And Marietta, you know our community at the Powder Group. We are made up of film and TV people, editorial and beauty people. We've got bridal artists. As an overall arching idea, what would you say has changed most about the business of makeup artistry, or changed most about the industry that we're in since you started?
I think having information at your fingertips is one of the biggest things that have changed. I think the access to the internet, I'm not talking social media, but the access to internet to be able to research things is something that we just didn't have at our disposal. We had to go to the library to do it. So I think instant access is one of the things. And I think what has happened, it's crossed into the business. So people want results over, like instantaneously, as opposed to, you go research and you pull it up, and there's a process in researching. It's not an overnight thing. It's a growth. You find it and then you dig deeper and deeper and deeper. I think, but what has happened is because of the internet and the growth of the internet and the availability of the instant availability of information, people want their careers to go like that. And that's just not feasible.
So it's not just the creative director or the producer or the, someone who is looking, who's hiring you, who's expecting a faster result. You feel like the result that we expect for our own development and careers has also
Hmm.
changed because of that immediacy.
I strongly believe that, people, they see stuff, but they see me, and then they don't see that I've been doing this grind for 30 years. It's still a grind. I mean, you adjust the level of grinding, you know.
I like
You
that.
do. But mine is not like this anymore. Mine is more like uh, you know, but it's still a grind. And you still have to keep fresh. But I don't expect overnight. That overnight success is 30 years in the making.
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel that you have attained, because this is an important question for whether you're starting out in the industry or you're just kind of getting through this moment of pandemic right now and keeping moving. How do you feel that you have been able to maintain a 30-year career? You're working on projects right now. This last 2 years, 3 years, you've worked on projects as big as the projects you worked on when you were at your Hollywood makeup artist prime a decade more ago. What do
Mhm.
you think makes it the longevity for Marietta Carter-Narcisse there?
I think readjusting my priorities constantly. I think that's what has given me the energy. I took the time to raise my kid. And there's something about having that foundation. I know my family is a big important part of my foundation, and makeup is a part of my life. I allow myself to live my life. And I think what happens is we feel we're going to miss the boat. So we don't know how to adjust and create balance in our life. And I think part of my success is my ability to create balance in my life, and literally stop to not just smell the roses, but to pick them too.
Mm.
I mean, I know that sounds very cliche-ish, but that's one of the things that I've always done. I've always tried to take those breaks to regroup, because if you don't regroup, you're going to run out. And I know I hit burnout at one point of the industry. I hit burnout because I was going, and no breaks, going, going. And I didn't even know what burnout was when I hit it, but I hit it so hard, like a brick wall in front of me. And I didn't like it because I didn't want to be on a movie set when I hit burnout. I did
Mm.
not want to see any parts of a movie set. So I say you got to really adjust and think about where you want to go, and take the time to put pauses in between.
Do you feel like, and this isn't a loaded question, I really am asking it, do you feel like the pandemic has made that worse or made it better for people?
I think it's made it a lot better for people. It's made people who've been going like bunny rabbits, all of a sudden, boom, the batteries went dead, and they had to stop and take a look at what was around them. What is my life? What am I doing with my life? And for me, my big pause came with Samuel L. Jackson, because I got up one day and I realized I missed my kid's first day of school. I missed this, I'm missing that. And whose life am I living? As great as this is, I was living Samuel L. Jackson's life. And it's all fine and wonderful, but at the end of the day, you have to assess your priorities and realize, is this the direction that I want to go in? Good, bad, or indifferent. So I suffered the consequences. When you make that kind of an income, and we're played very well in this industry. But when you make that kind of income, to make the sacrifices and then figure out, how am I going to live after that? It's challenging. It's not easy, but it's doable. Why is it doable? Because I know I did it. I did what I had to do to stay afloat. I never stopped doing makeup. I just readjusted what I was doing in makeup. And I readjusted it, and I allowed the universe to guide me as to where am I supposed to be. And right there at that time, I was right where I was supposed to be, taking care of my child and my husband. And we have to be I think people are so afraid that if I stop doing it, I'm gonna miss out. I'm gonna lose out. I'm not gonna be able to come back. Well, Michael, I came back.
Yes, you did.
Because I never left. You know what I mean?
I
never left.
I didn't want to correct you, but I was going to say, I'm not sure you ever left, but then you said it. Because I think that what's interesting is, and we deal with this a lot at the Powder Group. I'm very lucky that between James, myself, our community, our educators, all come from the same mindset in some ways, right? That, if you love this industry and you love working in makeup and you love the business of makeup, it isn't about whether you're working out of a salon or you're doing freelance editorial or you're working in retail or you're an Oscar winner. It's about the heart and the passion and the craft. So what's interesting is this is about the business of makeup, right? Well, we're talking about heart, and we're talking about self-care, and we're talking about prioritization, and we're talking about balance. And what I think you said that really sticks with me, and we've talked about this before, is not being afraid that if you put your phone down for a day and don't post on social media, or you don't have your computer in your lap at night while you're watching Netflix with your husband, which is what I do. Okay, like if you take a moment and take a break, and one of the reasons we offer things like art programs and wellness programs at the Powder Group is because we want you to be a whole person. We want you to be 360 degrees, right? And I think what you just said is so important. It really allows people to think outside of this hustle. We talk the hamster wheel, right? I'm running in the hamster wheel. The only time I stop is if something gets in the cog, like something stops the hamster wheel, right? Like a pandemic. So I think this is great. I want to jump into this idea of the business piece and the artists and how they run their business. Because that's one of the things I've heard you teach when you're at Cosmics. I hear you teach. I've heard you teach at trade shows. You've taught for me at the Powder Group. One of the things I love is the way you engage with the folks who you are educating and the way that you share with them. And I think that there's sometimes as an educator, you can see something in someone and say, this person has not just the technicity, not the artistry, not the craft. That's fine. You have to have that. But what are some things that you see in someone? What are some things maybe that are sought after as characteristics from people that you would want to have on your team, or you think make a good part of a team in the business of makeup?
One of the things that I think teaching on a daily basis really helped me to see it in students, because when I was at Cosmos for about 10 years. And initially I got the students when they would leave in. So I got them a week or two before they walked out the door. And I started to look at the things and I'm like, you're not ready to walk out the door. You're not quite there yet. It's not just the skill set, it's the mindset. So then we switched things around at the school and I started getting them when they first came in. And then they went through the whole program, and then I would get them when they were just ready to leave. And I watched when they came in, immediately I could tell those who really belong there and those whose parents forced them to do something, those who came of their own mindset, because when I gave assignments, there are those who went the extra mile. So I think the extra mile is a big part. And you can't tell somebody to go the extra mile. They have to go it on their own. They're those who just do the bare minimum to get by. And that's just as recognizable as those who put their 150%, 200% in to get the end results. So I look for people who put that 200% in. For the most minute of tasks to the most insurmountable of tasks. That's what I look for.
I think that's an important
People.
point. It's
Yeah.
not just the tasks that that person finds interesting or cool or fun or challenging. It's
Hmm.
the cleaning of the brushes for the class. It's the, emptying out the trash. It's the little things that we do as a part of a team that,
Hmm.
because Marietta, you've seen some exceptional makeup artists in your career, who maybe you're not that interested in working with or having on your team because you don't feel like they go that extra mile. What's more important in the business of makeup? Is it the technique? Is it the willpower to keep focusing and driving? Is it that ability to go the extra mile? What is the key factors?
I think going that extra mile is one of the biggest key factors, because it's not always about that skill set. It's not always about that skill set, because so much of what we do, especially in film and television, it's not about the skill set, because it's character driven. So
Mhm.
so it's scripted. It's you taking on. We're filmmakers, and I try really hard to train those who want a career in film and television to think as a filmmaker. You're filmmakers. You're telling a story. So you're not just putting on makeup, you're telling a story. So you literally have to go into the head of that character to tell that story. Am I Marietta or am I Mary? Well, Marietta will wear her makeup this way, but Mary definitely will not choose those colors. So it's telling that story. So it's those people who are open and realize that you're guided, and your guidance is not just, but I can do perfect wing eyeliner, because Mary doesn't do perfect wing eyeliner. Mary can't even do eyeliner, you know. So it's going into your head and becoming that storyteller of each and every single character that you do. So somebody who is open allows that. When you're not open, you're just doing paint by number.
So open, that's a key. I want everyone to think of that word and think of what that word means, and being open, because it actually goes back to what you said before as well. It's about being open to knowing that you have to trust the process. You have to trust the leadership on a project. You have to trust your educator. You have to trust your boss, right? Understanding
You
being.
just you just you just said it. You have to trust your boss.
Mhm. That's a big deal, isn't it? Especially when
It's a
the
big
boss has to
deal.
give critique or tell someone that they have to is correct or have to do something. That's an important trait. That idea of openness and being able to understand that perspective that your boss wants you to succeed. Your boss wants the project to succeed. So every bit of information that is shared, whether it's positive or constructive, is about the project succeeding. So I think there's got to be a little bit of humility thrown in there too, right?
A lot of humility, because if you can be a phenomenal artist, and I just work with two really amazing and phenomenal artists on my team. But at the end of the day, how those characters look, that final decision comes down to me.
Mm.
They're executing it, but and I had two of the actresses on recently in Instagram Live, and when it came down to things like the nails, she knows who's doing her in the trailer. I'm not doing her. But I'm telling you, every single time there was a nail change, she called me or sent me a text and said, I need to make sure that you approve this shape and color. Because she knew that I'm not doing her makeup. But at the end of the day, if I don't like the color, Caroline, who's doing her makeup, is still not going to fly.
So it's also about not only trusting your boss, but understanding whose decision things are as well in this industry,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. It's so, I think what happens is when you come on as part of a team, I think from day one, if you're the department head, you have to set the scenario. It doesn't matter how many times you've worked with a person, because every project's different. You have to set up the scenario. You have to set the boundaries initially. So before you even start shooting, in that prep stage, you have to set up what you're looking for. And that's one of the things that I do. This is what I'm looking for. This is how things are going to roll. This is what I expect from you. This is what you should expect from me. And this is how we're going to work as a team to get it done. You have to set that scenario up every single time. Because each project, no matter how similar they are, they're very different. You come on with different directors, different AD teams, different actors, all of that. So you have to set up that scenario. So you have to be willing to be open and allow that process to take place.
It seems to me that you have to have a certain level of confidence as an artist in order to let your guard down, in order to be open and to trust the process. And I think that we see a lot of people who are, I don't mean this in a negative way, I mean this in a positive way, trying to prove themselves, trying to show their value, trying to show their importance on a project, and that it's a good thing that they're there. It sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying that you've already proven yourself because you got the job. All you need to do now is follow direction and do the job well. It's not about stepping up. It's not about changing anything. It's not about having an ego. It's not about it being about you. It's about the project.
Right. You just said it. That's exactly what it comes down to. It's about the project, because then that's how we get things done. That's how it works. And you set up that scenario for them to understand the chain of command when things happen, how it flows in that hierarchy of the environment we work in, because there's a definite hierarchy and there's a definite flow of information. So you have to understand how that's going to flow. And that's not your artistry, Michael. That's your ability to delegate as a boss and your ability as part of the team to take instruction. That's not artistry.
I think it also applies to every area of our industry, really.
Yeah.
It applies to bridal, it applies to editorial, it applies to commercial projects, it applies to theatrical, it applies to education, it applies to retail. Understand in business, in the business of makeup, understand what is the purpose of your role, understand how you get there and how you measure success in that role. As a designer, it's a different level of success in a way that's judged about design versus application and consistency and continuity. So there's, I think, understanding your role and how you gauge success in that role is key to this. I want to ask you a couple.
Before you go further,
yeah.
One of the things, and we got to go back to retail, because I did retail when I moved here because I wasn't afraid. You asked, you can't be afraid. I wasn't afraid to go back into retail in order to be a mom and a wife. It kept me in makeup. It makes you learn all the latest products that are out there. So you have to stay knowledgeable. And you work in so many different facial shapes and lip shapes and eye shapes, and you learn the product. You increase your speed. All the above. It makes you more versatile, I think. But one of the things that I was doing when I was in retail is I was flying back to Los Angeles to teach on weekends. So I would work at Saks, the Lancome counter, then fly to LA and teach on the weekend. So I would leave on a Friday evening, fly to LA, teach Saturday and Sunday, and take the red eye back to Saks and go to work on Monday. I did what I had to do. And I was also working as an agent. A lot of people don't know that aspect of me because I never really publicized it, but I was also working as an agent. And for 7 years, I ended up quitting Saks because I was so busy as an agent that I was getting phone calls at the counter with the executives from Sony and Paramount and Warner Brothers Music. And I would constantly be in the bathroom because I couldn't take the phone calls at the counter. And my boss came up to me one day and she said, "What is wrong with you? Why are you always embarrassed?" I got a bad bladder problem. But then I had to come to grips with myself again. I cannot continue to work there and be in the bathroom or go in the back and hide to respond to a telephone call. So I had to make a decision. I decided to hand in my resignation because I only gave myself 2 years to work at Saks. Okay. They took bets on me and they said I would last 2 weeks. I lasted 2 years because they didn't know what to. They had no clue what to do with somebody like myself. And I say all of that to say that I was working as an agent, and that took over. So within that goal that I had set myself to do the 2 years, I handed in the resignation like almost to the date of 2 years. And then for the next 5 years, I pounded my head into my agency. Mm. And that's what I was doing because I was juggling so much. I mean, my phone was never turned off because I was dealing with everybody in LA. So I go to bed, and then at 3 o'clock in the morning, I get to go to the bathroom, and then something's changed drastically. I got to get in the phone and call people. So that part of me, that agency part of me, kept me very, very, very busy.
Let me ask you, I want you to put your agency hat on for a minute, and I want to ask you a couple of questions that I think your perspective as an agent would be really helpful for our folks. Because a lot of our folks aren't with an agency, they kind of act as their own agent, right? Especially right now, agencies are going through the same kind of process everyone else is. And I think a lot of people think having an agent would be great and be helpful, but you still have to understand how to run your business, and you still have to understand how to think like a business person. So 2 questions. One, I know you are like the queen of negotiation. So I want to ask you a little bit about negotiating, but before I ask you about that, because I think that's a really important skill for our community to have, I want you to ask, what are some things that, if you're thinking about an artist who is agenting for themselves, representing themselves, which is the great majority of our community, what are some skills besides makeup artistry? Let's take that off the table. We know you got to be good at what you do. Exactly. Take that off. What are some skills that people need to be adept at? What do they need to work on in order to be a strong business person representing themselves?
I said, stop trying to negotiate when you're driving 100 miles down the highway. You can't. And if the job is for you, it's still going to be there when you get off the highway. What you have to learn how to do is say, this is not an appropriate time for us to speak right now. Can I call you back in the next 15, 20 minutes? Yes, I am available. However, to go into the details, can I call you back within the next 15 or 20 minutes? Or however long it's going to take you to get home or to a place where you can sit and put your thoughts together and stuff. Because no matter how good you think you are, if you don't have those thoughts on paper or someplace where it's visible, when you get to that final negotiation, you've missed the key points. Once you've negotiated, there's no going back to renegotiate, because those first things that come out, that's all a producer, art director, that's all they're hearing. None of the other stuff that you missed out on, you can come back and say, oh, by the way, add this, add that. No, doesn't work that way.
Right.
Doesn't work that way. So I think you always have, and one of the things that I always did, and when I lived in my house in LA, I had a little phone nook. So when that phone rang, I had those key points that I never wanted to miss, to make sure when I was negotiating that I covered all those key points. And I think that that's one of the things. We're so busy. You might not be able to pay the rent, the mortgage, whatever it is, that you feel you're going to miss out on the job, that you rush to go through the process. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. I think you need to take the time, always take the time to go through the process methodically, because you don't want to miss out on anything, because there's no going back.
Are there any tips that you can give someone about negotiating?
Listen to what's not being said. Because there's a whole dialogue that sometimes is never, I say like 3 types of people you talk to on the phone when you're doing the negotiating. Some of those executives that I used to speak to, I love dealing with the executive who would get on the phone and said, I've got $10,000 in the budget. Let's talk about what we can do with that. As opposed to the executive, what's your rate? That him and hawing back and forth, because at the end of the day, that is just so damn annoying. You know how much you've got to deal with. Stop putting me through the process. So when I got those executives, I know I went outside the ballpark. I just called an astronomical rate that I know you're not even going to deal with it. So I could just get your attention. And I had that executive who would say, oh, well, what's the rate? And then I make a joke out of it. I said, you want me to tell you the rate you want to hear or the real rate that they made? And I always, you have to do it with a smile on your face. And I said, are you sitting down? Are you ready for the rate? Okay, let me sit down. And then I'll tell them, oh, we don't have that. Well, what do you have? Because all I want to do is get out of you what you've got. So sometimes I never would take myself too seriously.
I think that,
You know?
I offer a cautionary warning. Some people can get away with that energy and some people can't. Marietta,
I know,
Carter-Narcisse
exactly.
can get away with it. So be conscious of that if you're trying to be kind of funny, but you're not a funny person.
Exactly. I think you have to find that strength where your strength lies in making those negotiations.
Right.
Because if you're not funny, it's not gonna come off right. You know, and stuff. And then there are other times when, based on who I'm talking to and getting on the phone, that I'm a downright bitch. You know, I'm just a total bitch. It's like, no, that's not gonna work. Call me when you figure it out. Bye.
Well, I'm grateful I've never been on the receiving end of that. So thank you.
You know, no, because you know what? Because when you call me, you'll say, Marietta, this is what I have in the budget. And this is what, can we work with this? You're upfront with it. You're not going back and forth with it.
Yeah.
That's why I do it. You know what I mean? You always say, Mike, you'll come, you'll say, Marietta, we've got X amount in the budget. Let's see how we can make it work for that. I appreciate and respect that. And that's what you want out of the other person, or the person on the other end. You know, I just did a deal the other day for my long time client. And she said, well, you know, they have your number, they're gonna call you. And when they called, when I got off the phone, I said, damn it, I should have asked some more. They didn't even hesitate.
Now, let me ask you a question there. Do you, like, is that a moment that you beat yourself up on, or do you just go, well, you know what? I asked for what I deserved and I wanted and I got it.
It's both.
It's both? Okay.
It's both. It's both, because I pushed the button a little bit, you know, and then I said, darn it. And then it's over at that moment, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's over. It's done. There's no going back. Oh, can I get a little bit more? No, there's no going back for that. I did it. I got what we wanted, but I realized there was room there. So that's how you learn. You realize there's room sometimes. Sometimes there's no room. And I love when I deal with that person on the other end who I go, where's the wiggle room? Where's the wiggle room? Can we push it to, because, you know, especially when you're doing film and television, you know, they will fight you tooth and nail for that 5 cents. Tooth and nail, because you want, okay, instead of 55.25, can I get 55.75? No, we don't have it in the budget, because they're not calculating that 25 cents or 50 cents difference is being calculated over 8 hours, then time and a half, then double time, over 5 days, over 2 days of being carried when you're on location, over the next 4 months. So they look at the big picture. And a lot of us don't understand that that's not just, oh, why can't I get the 2 cents? Because it's 2 cents over a period of time.
So the skill of understanding the I know this is called the business of makeup, but understanding the business side of it, understanding that producer, that director, they have a budget, and that while for you it's just a little bit more, understanding what else is involved in this project so that you can understand why maybe there isn't the wiggle. I love the the phrase wiggle room. I think that's a great advice. Just a couple more questions for you, because we're coming up on 30 minutes. I think we're at 30 minutes. So,
before you go for it, sometimes there is that wiggle room because sometimes they build it in, to say, I can give it to you in kit rental, but I can't give it to you in salary. You see? So sometimes there's that wiggle room because in the kit rental, they can pull it from someplace else because that's a rounded number. It's 25, 30, 50, you know what I mean? Whereas with union rates, it's not just a 65, like 65, 25 or 55, 75, you know what I mean? So they can't give it to you there. But the kit rental, there's no time and a half for kit rental or anything like that. Okay. So it's not calculated that way.
Got it.
It's a flat rate. It's a different,
like a different line
$30
item.
a day.
It's a different budget line item.
Completely different line item. Okay. So you might be able to pull it in that. They might be able to do it in the kit rental. See?
Okay, that makes sense. If there were one or two things that you would say are sort of pitfalls, things that you have looked at, have seen in the industry that you feel artists do that are detrimental to their career development, what would you say?
When I call you to check your availability, the first question you ask me is, how much is it? I'm not interested in you anymore. Because if you're not working, what difference does it make how much it is? It's 10 cents more than you're making right now, which is nothing. So if I'm calling to check your availability and you're not working, you're available, the rate to me is irrelevant. And to me, that's one of the biggest turnoffs I get, because especially if you're union, and let me phrase this, if you're union, your focus should be, if you're not doing anything, I'm available. Why? Because you do 8 hours, that's 8 hours more towards your pension plan, 8 hours more towards your health and welfare. That's down the road. That's what you have to look at. You see? And that to me is more critical than anything else. So those are the things that I think people need to look at more. When you're 25, 27, maybe 30, you're not thinking about that, but you should be, because it affects you down the road.
And if you're not sure if you should be thinking about it or not, ask all the 50, 55-year-old makeup artists who didn't think about it at 30.
Exactly.
Whether they wish they had thought about it at 30. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about this bad boy, because I love it. It's my favorite. Also, the piece we did on you and planning for your career actually went live today on Makeup Magazine.
It did?
I wanted to put it together with our talk. So if you've not checked out on makeupmagazine.com, we have a piece on Marietta. She talks about the planner. Can you tell us just really quickly, how does this book help someone plan their career?
I lay out because it's not just me, myself, it's me, my mom, my son, my husband. So I lay out my schedule so I can see. I write down everything so I can see. I keep track of everything that I'm doing. I write my goals. I write quick thoughts that come into my head. Because I love to write. I know we have our computer this and computer that, but by the time I go back sometimes and look at my computer when I'm trying to write it quickly, I don't know what I've written because it writes on its own. You don't
have to convince me.
I like, and I like it because, like when I get paper. When I get something ahead of time, I can put that into my planner. I can put that, okay, so this is the date that's coming up. You can map out, you can look at the 2 years, 2021, 2022, you can look at the years, you can look at the month ahead, the years ahead. There's a mental laxative in there for you to check your 6 months to see, oh my God, am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing what I'm
I
supposed to
love
do?
the self accountability.
Yes,
Like,
yes. It's all
and
of
I
those
love
things,
this. This is
Michael.
toward the end of the year because it's in 18 months. So you go into January 2022. Time for that routine physical annual checkup for my career roadmap. Like, come on, this is amazing.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
great. I think that for me, I love paper. I love a paper magazine. I love a paper book. I love the planner. It's what I love about it, Marietta, is that it is for organization. But what you just said before, you didn't say the word organization. But when I said, what are some skills that you need to have, and how do you negotiate? And you said be organized. That's what you said. In other words, though, be organized. Have that list of things you have to ask. Have a checklist. Sit down at your desk when you're speaking to someone. Don't do it while you're driving. All these things are really important. Being organized is what a business does. Being disorganized is what an amateur or a hobbyist does. So if you're going to take your career seriously, be organized.
Well, I was going to say to you just on that same note, like when somebody calls me for something, the first thing I do is let me check my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I don't try to do it off the top of my head because that can you end up being conflicted. And that's one of the first reasons why I was doing the planner, because I was putting together my schedule. And I didn't want to conflict with the classes that the powder group had. I didn't want to conflict with IMAT's show. I didn't want to conflict with the makeup show. And when I started doing it, I realized that IMAT's and Crystal's classes and all you guys had dates at the same time. And I'm like, how are people going to decide where to go and what to do? Because the industry is so small, having conflicting dates is not conducive to building the individual businesses. You know what I mean? And stuff, because I want to do all of them. So you can't be on the same day.
Yeah. I think the organization piece is something I think, again, just as we're starting to wrap up, one of the things I love about you and your message is the great majority of the things that you teach and talk about, while you teach makeup artistry, of course, are about these common sense, logical things that people don't always think about. So I want to ask you one final question. First off, where can they buy the planner? Is it on your website?
On my website, Marietta Carter-Narcisse.com. And you don't spell the hyphen, okay? It's Marietta Carter-Narcisse. Carter, that dash between. Yeah.
Don't spell hyphen.
No, don't spell it
out. My last question for you is, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is looking to get a start in the industry or who's looking to grow their career in the industry, what would that one piece of advice be as we wrap up?
Okay, I have to read it because I saved this just for this. Okay, so bear with me as I pull it up. I did a makeup with the late John Singleton. I did Rebel. I did the pilot episode, which is the first episode. And the actress who starred in that, Danielle Monet Truitt, she just got onto, what is that show? She just got onto a big show. And she posted this yesterday, and I thought it was so appropriate for our conversation. The seeds you plant matter. The tears you cry water those seeds. Every time you fail, fall, or struggle, and make a choice to get up again, you fertilize those seeds. Never, ever, ever give up on you or your dreams.
Wow.
And when I saw that, I thought, oh my God, that is so true.
And it's a hard time. It's a hard time for our industry. It's a hard time for our community. And moving forward, our hashtag forward together at the Powder Group, keeping our community inspired, keeping, your students inspired, keeping, the people that we surround ourselves with thinking about the future and not necessarily the challenges of today has been so important, I think, over the last year, and will continue to be important until we get back to whatever the next normal. Like, that was an amazing quote. Would you do me a favor and send me that later? Because I'd love to post that.
I will, because I thought that just blew me away when I read that. And this actress, she's so talented, but she's finally got a big, I think it's NCI, one of those big shows in New York. Or no, Law and Order. I think it's Law and Order, But I think that that's what we have to keep telling it. An hour's gone by already, Michael. I can't believe it. That's what we have to keep doing, because I fall down. I fall down, and I got called to do a couple of shows, and they never materialized. And I've learned over the years. I say to my husband, "Oh, I just got a call for such and such." And my philosophy and my I always say to him, if it's for me, it's gonna come back. If it's not, oh, thank you, God, for that which you brought into my life, and for that which you've so graciously taken away. Next.
I can't think of a better word to end on. Next. Amazing. Marietta, you are just my hero. I love talking with you. I can't wait till we can do it in person again soon. I want to thank everybody for being with us. I want to thank Marietta for all of her contributions to everything we've been doing at the Powder Group in the last year through the pandemic, and being a part of our Black Makeup Artist Experience conversation, and the How Are We Doing program, and our reality check. What do you want us to know? You've been so great to lend your voice to our community and to share with us at every turn. So thank you for all that you do for all of us. We are here for you. Go to Marietta Carter-Narcisse.com, pick up the planner. She also has the little brown book, which is all the terminology you ever need to know in the industry. I want to thank our sponsors, Omnia, Beekman 1802, Muse Beauty Pro, Senna Cosmetics, Cinema Secrets, and Scandinavia for today's program. This has been the Powder Group Conversations with Marietta Carter-Narcisse on the business of makeup. Thanks for being with us. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye, Michael.
Bye, everybody.
Love you. Thank you.